Well, welcome everyone. We really appreciate you being here this evening. My name is Graham Robertson. I'm the current president of the Carmel Residents Association, and it really is a privilege to see you all. Before we get started on the program, what I'd like to do is thank the Carmel Youth Center, and in particular Keith Padgett, for opening the Youth Center for us tonight. Keith is in the back of the room. Keith, we take a round of applause for Keith. Keith is the new CEO, and he'd be delighted to give anyone and everyone a tour of the facility after the meeting. So we hope to take you up on that, Keith, and thank you for all the hard work that you do. To move into the program, I'll give a brief overview on the CRA, and we'll move through it. We have several things to accomplish tonight. Just our overview. We're going to get into a specific committee that two of our board members are participating in. Then we're going to have a presentation of the business of the year, and then we'll move into a Q&A with our guests from Monterey, the Carmel Chamber, and Visit Carmel. Established in 1987, the Carmel Residents Association is a civic, service, and social, and when necessary, political organization whose members are determined to keep Carmel-by-the-Sea a great place in which to live, play, work, and or visit. The CRA is a civic nonprofit 501c4 public benefit corporation incorporated according to the laws of the state of California. The CRA follows a long tradition of other volunteer organizations that, for over 75 years, have taken the lead in protecting our community against over-commercialization. We believe, as our city charter says, that Carmel, and I quote, is primarily, essentially, and predominantly a residential community. Our mission statement reads as follows. The Carmel Residents Association is committed to the protection and enrichment of the traditional quality of life in Carmel-by-the-Sea and the preservation of its heritage and natural beauty through education, community activities, and advocacy. You have a very hard-working board of directors, some of whom are here tonight, and I'd like to introduce them, and if you'd stand when I read your name. Ken White, Frankie Laney, Tim Toomey, Mary Condry, Sherry Williams, Mike Brown, Sarah Harnish, Janine Chickaro, J.C. Myers, Sigale Lomas, and our newest board member, Ross Kaplan. Please give them a round of applause. We're going to go through some statistics and how we're doing just overall, and I can tell you that Nancy Toomey has done a great job with membership. Our membership currently stands at 908 members. I don't think it's ever been quite as high as that. She does a great job there. We have a website, and by comparison, last year we had 16,000 visits to our website on a monthly basis. 2025, we have 65,000. So that's really a testament to Nancy and all her hard work on the website. Give her a round of applause. Our financials are as follows. We have a budget of $67,000. It's a zero-based budget. Tim Toomey is our treasurer, does a great job. And we have net assets of about $96,000. So your membership dues, other special events that we do over the course of the year enable us to have events like this, and that's where our revenue comes from. Our expenses are very limited, and we appreciate all your membership, and we would ask each one of you, if you could ask one of your friends or neighbors to join, we'd be greatly appreciative of that. So, but financially, we're in very good shape, thanks to Tim's leadership. Our publications, we have The Voice, which I think, Nancy, there's a current copy up front, and we publish that 5 times a year. And News You Can Use, you see that in your email inboxes. That happens at least bi-monthly, if not weekly, and Nancy is right on top of that on a regular basis. Our community activities are as follows. We have a table at the farmer's market. J.C. Myers over in the corner there is credited with our beach cleanup, March through October. Give J.C. a round of applause for all his help with that. We do several no-host gatherings over the course of the year. Sherry Williams, who's not with us tonight, but her husband Frank is the bartender over there. Frank, you want to stand up and say something? No, you're good, stay there. His wife Sherry is terrific. Frank married way up, and she does a great job with our Sunshine Committee. We have ongoing participation in city council meetings, commissions, and other special groups around town. And I think if you look at your programs, you can see all the boards and commissions and nonprofits that your board of directors is involved with over the course of the year. And it's a fairly lengthy list. Everything from a former mayor of Carmel all the way down to some of the other committees and activities we participate in. There's programs and events that we do over the course of the year. Feast in the Forest, which is coming up, JC, in September at Indian Village over in Pebble Beach. We've had several town hall meetings over the course of time. Senator John Laird, Assembly Member Don Addis, who was here talking to us about the housing element. Paul Miller has been here as the editor and owner of the Carmel Pine Cone. The city of Carmel had their directors here. Chip Rarick's in the back of the room, and he had his team here to talk to us several months ago, and that was a great event. We have a rummage sale. Holiday Gala happens in December. Candidates forum during election years, city birthday party, and our annual meeting, of course. So we're always looking for folks to assist us. So anyone in the audience here, or any friends that you might have that would like to get involved, we'd be grateful for their participation. So let's recognize our board one more time for all their hard work and their activities. Tonight we'd like to highlight two CRA board members who are intimately involved in a very important group in the village. Nancy and Tim Toomey are part of the Affordable Housing Alternatives, or AHA group, that is working on amending Carmel-by-the-Sea's housing element. So let's welcome Tim and Nancy up to the microphone to give us a brief overview on the work that they do. Tim, Nancy.
Thank you, Graham. Thanks, Graham. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah, great. Hey, so I just wanted to give you an update on the AHA group, Affordable Housing Alternatives. It's a group, and actually there's some members in the audience here who were part of the founding fathers that helped start this thing. It was to take a look at the housing element that was approved last year, and to come up with alternatives so that we could take the city sites, this is one of them, Villalobos and the Sunset Center lots off of the housing element, and come up with substitute areas to fulfill that obligation. As you know, there's 349 housing units that are in the housing element. It's hundreds of pages long, and the amendment, we're working on an amendment that impacts two sections of that housing element. It's still pretty long. The red line draft was reviewed by the Planning Commission last night, and that went really well. We got a thumbs up there. And then we have another meeting, a joint meeting with the Planning Commission and the City Council on May 20th at 3:30 in City Hall to go over it one more time. And so we'd really, like to have you all there, take a look at it. Let us know give us your feedback. Let us know if you have any questions, concerns, things like that. And then I believe that the red line drafts of those two sections are on our website.
CRA housing page, yeah.
Okay, great. So you can take a look at that there. Like I said, it's pretty long, but it's really interesting. We've come up with 5 new programs, and they're all just really different. They're really innovative, really creative, and we've reimagined, I think, some of the old programs that were in the housing element. So that's been a lot of work. And let's see, so there's timeline on that. After feedback from the City Council and the Planning Commission, then we'll submit that to HCD on or around the May 30th. It'll take them about 3 weeks to get through that, and then we'll be hearing back. So again, more specifically, there are 5 strategies that are proposed to enhance and create this effort by the team. So they include There's a group that's working on housing on religious properties, churches. That's Victoria Beach. And they've actually had meetings with the church leaders and got a lot of really good feedback from them. Then there's a downtown mixed income use program, which is for the larger lots, and that's looking at commercial, street level, uses and residential uses upstairs. So it's trying to get more residential in the downtown area through that program. And Hans Buder, who's a city council member, is leading that effort. And then there's a downtown, it's called Downtown Live Work Program, and that's for the smaller spaces, and they're most commonly in the courtyards, not on our main streets. And the front of the space would be used, it'll be downstairs. Front of the space would be used for retail, and the back for living space. And Hans and Victoria are co-leading that effort, and they've done a lot of really good research around it. The financials of it really make sense for the building owner and for the tenant. And then there's a hotel to residential conversion project, and that's looking at some of our underperforming hotels that are scattered throughout town. They're small hotels, 15, 20 rooms, and we're looking at a possibility of those converting to affordable housing. And I'm the lead on that one, and I'm actually happy to answer any questions that you might have around that specific program. And then finally, the ADU strategy is led by Nancy, and she's here to share more insights on that program, since we feel that that is more relevant to our residents. So I'll turn it over to Nancy.
Great. One of the things that is happening in Sacramento is they're proliferating a lot of legislation, and a lot of it does tend to land on the ADU area, because their objective is to make sure that ADUs fly through any approvals that can inhibit rolling out of a new building effort on your residential property. So we're embracing some of those, and we need to via state laws. So those are being worked on as far as trying to simplify them, make them clearer for what they mean to you, take out the legalese and the mumbo jumbo that Sacramento tends to incorporate in how they communicate. But one of those, well, let me step aside, and with ADUs as auxiliary housing that could be on your property, there is work underway with a new ordinance on our ADU properties, or our ADU opportunities. And that is still underway at the city level. And that will continue to get exposure to embrace the specifics of what makes Carmel wonderful, and the wonderful place that we live, that we get ADUs that look and feel like the rest of the village. So that is still underway. It is not yet complete. But one of the other programs that the state has implemented is an amnesty program, where if you already have a cottage or an outbuilding on your property, how do we get that to roll into an ADU opportunity that can be made legitimate through just making sure that the health and safety codes are applicable, and that you've got the necessary bathroom and mini kitchenette that's a part of that, the configurations that may already exist in the village. And we will also be continuing to monitor the ADU legislation as it continues to come out. But a couple of things, that in the ADUs that have been approved in the last couple of years, over 20 of them are actual conversions of existing cottages out in the community. So we're getting a lot of that traffic already. We'd like to continue that as a part of this program. And then additionally, we've also seen a lot of success inside this cycle of this housing element, which is an 8-year cycle. We've already seen 45 units permitted, or actually all the way to certificate of occupancy. So there's a lot of good traffic, and we like to keep it going. We do want to add and deal with the water use, which can be an obstacle for many people to consider an ADU, and water is beginning to come online. So we look forward to seeing that happen over the course of the rest of this year. We are also exploring implementing a pre-sales inspection, which we don't do right now. So if a sale of a house comes up, we don't send somebody from the city out to inspect whether or not they're up to code with whatever exists on their property. But that's another way for us to capture potentially units that could be candidates based upon the property owner's preference and the like, because none of this is being forced on people. We're just trying to enable and encourage that type of work moving forward to get new residents living in our town, and ideally affordable too, because their ADUs are notoriously small, which we like them small, not big. So that's an important part of some of the programs that are coming out. And I would like to also suggest, and have mentioned this before in prior meetings, that we all know, most of you here are full-time residents, but there are a lot of second homeowners in our village. And we'd like to encourage those second homeowners to consider an ADU on their property so that they have life and people living on their property full-time, and for safety and oversight of their property. And let's get more people living here. Rather than just part-time. I mean, part-time is going to happen. We know we're a destination. We know people do buy investment property here. But if we can encourage the ADUs and get people living in those units, that's a big part of what we're trying to enable and make sure that we remove obstacles to getting to that goal. So we look forward to your help on all of this, and if you've got ideas, suggestions, questions, any of that, I can probably answer most of them, but of course the city planning department is there for people's questions and more detail as they go through that. But just wanted to kind of give you a little bit more lay of the land of what's inside the work that we've been doing to try to uncover how we can simplify and streamline. So that's the program for right now. So we're going to, I think, I'll wrap on that. We will take questions. You know, Tim and I are around and continue to take questions as we mix and mingle after the rest of the program. So we won't take the live program questions now. We'll move into the next part of the program. Here you go.
Tim and Nancy, thank you for all your hard work. And this AHA group, just so we all know, and I think they mentioned it up front, meets on a weekly basis, has been meeting for the last year and some months. The other important thing is that they've got a link now to Sacramento. So the HCD director for our area is based out of Santa Cruz. These guys meet with him every 2 to 3 weeks. They have that relationship, and I think that's a really valuable thing as Sacramento is, you know, instilling these draconian measures down on these local communities. So we appreciate all your hard work in doing that. Before we move on, I was remiss and I didn't go to etiquette school, so I have to apologize. We have 2 officials with us tonight. We have Mayor Dale Byrne in the back of the room. Please recognize Dale for all this hard work. And sitting next to him is his older brother, Chip Herrera, our city administrator. We're going to move through the next stage of our program, and that is recognizing our Business of the Year. I'd like to invite former mayor, former educator, former Rotarian, and longtime Carmelite who knew Junipero Sarah, Ken White, to the microphone. Ken.
Thank you enough. This is kind of exciting. You realize that, first of all, 2 things. The CRA is the only residential organization in town that looks after the residents. And remember that as long as when you get your little slubs for donation to our membership, remember us, because we're working for you, everybody in this room. The second thing I'd like to say, it's like this Academy Awards night. We only do this once a year. Now the dancing girls and music isn't, we can't afford that. But we would like a Rich Pepe to come up and his beautiful wife. Help her up, Rich. We're bringing G with us. And Chris is here, I understand. G is here. G, welcome. The the reason we asked all of them, there's one son missing, he's working, right? You put him to work, okay.
We haven't changed
But
that.
this is a family, we're honoring a family. It's a restaurant, sure, but this family is impressive to me, and I think it ought to be viewed. And they do a tremendous job. And one other thing I want to say, most of you don't know the amount of time and effort they give in helping organizations in this city. If you count up the number of things they've done for other groups and people, I think you'd be quite amazed. So Rich Pepe, we'll talk about you.
Oh, wow.
But the power behind the throne is Sandra.
Yes.
Don't celebrate that.
No, yes, absolutely.
Rich is an immigrant. He started a
I don't
different
know,
area.
the whole speech about it, or about us.
He started a different area way back somewhere.
Hoboken, New Jersey.
And he must have heard or read the thing about young man, go west, the newspaper that said that to the men and the women. And he came from a foreign country, really, because he visited New Jersey. I had a hard time understanding.
We have our own language there.
So I had a hard time with that. I want to repeat this because it's a family thing that's getting this award. He's standing here, and he's the hardest working guy I know, and she's the hardest working woman I know. And the boys, they do exactly what you say every time, right? We'd like to, let me get behind you there. We got a little thing, Rich, you can hang on your wall.
Yeah, here it is.
How nice is that?
Oh, there's the other one.
Wow. Thank you.
And this is from the CRA.
Look at that.
And this is for a very, very helpful family in our community. And I hope you all remember that. Now, there's one thing I'm gonna do. It probably takes about an hour to give a speech.
No.
And one thing I'm gonna do, and not supposed to do, is illegal. So don't tell anybody when you go out of the room, it's illegal. But as a former mayor, I'm going to declare this man the mayor of Ocean Avenue.
Okay, you heard it here. You heard it here. Oh, what a surprise. What an honor, but what a surprise, too. All I know is Graham said to me, you gotta come to the CRA meeting. Bring Sandra and the boys, you gotta be there. He told me 150 times. But just a very quick story. It is a complete honor, not only to accept it on behalf of the restaurants and our family, but to be part of the community, really. And just a quick, little story. I came here a little over 50 years ago with $600 in a suitcase, and one of the first families I met was the Robinson family. I was playing tennis with Graham, met his parents, and I was practically living out of the back of my Volkswagen van, and his dad helped me find a place over here on Santa Fe Street, and I was working as a baker at Wishart's Bakery. And I know Cindy since I got here too, right? We were playing tennis at the Racket Club. And little by little made my way, and was fortunate enough to meet Sandy at MPC, and she's a Carmel High girl. Her dad and mom ran the Big Sur Lodge, so we started a family, and when the kids were born, we wound up buying Carmel Bakery and opening up Little Napoli and Vesuvio. But one of our greatest accomplishments that we feel, and we always talk about, is really half of Carmel High has worked for us over these many years. We're in business almost 40 years now. And seriously, every kid who goes through Carmel High, it's often their first job. It was our son's first jobs. They were waiting, and G can tell you, he was waiting behind the bakery, behind the counter. He was looking through, how can I help you? People couldn't even see him back there. But anyway, that's our little story. Thanks to the Robinson family. It's a great honor, but it's also a wonderful honor to be part of this community. We just love it here in Carmel. Maybe Sandy wants to say something. And then by the way, Sandy and I are pulling back, and the boys are running the businesses. So the greatest honor we also have is our two sons taking over the businesses into the second generation. We're very proud of them, and the Stevenson kids. They went to great colleges, and hopefully G just got married. Hopefully we're going to be grandparents soon. We hope to be here for many, many years to come. If you want to say anything, I'll just kick to G.
Thank you so much. I haven't had many awards when it comes to working in town all these years, and I have been here forever and put a lot of love and a lot of time. And my favorite thing about the business too is the kids that come to work. I love the kids, and they work hard, you know, and I'll take their shenanigans over an adult shenanigans because you know they might not show up on a Sunday morning, but by God, they'll be there on a Tuesday. Anyway, it's been a pleasure, and it still is to be a part of this community, and thank you all for having us. It really is an honor. Gee, what would you like to say?
They don't want to hear from me.
I'll let them go home early. Thank you, Ken.
Thank you, everyone.
Well, that's a well-deserved honor for the Pepe family, and Rich, Sandra, G, we appreciate all your hard work and commitment to the community over the years, not only with Little Napoli, who we recognize tonight, but also with Carmel Bakery, Vino Napoli, Vesuvio, and all your other organizations. The only thing I would add is you do everything really, really well. The one thing you need to work on is Rich Pepe's tennis game. I mean, it needs a lot of work. So hopefully that's something that you'll have time to do now that G's here. So we really appreciate that. And again, we appreciate you all being here tonight. We have some special guests that we'd like to bring up now so we can start our program. I'd like to invite Katie and Nia, Amy Herzog, and Rob O'Keefe to come up. And take a seat here with you, Katie, Amy, and Rob. And we're going to talk about tourism and how it impacts our village and some different ideas that we all might have as we move forward. So this is more of a free-flowing discussion like we've had with Paul Miller and some of the electeds that we've had here and so forth. But tourism is a big deal here, as we all know. It's a financial engine that drives this community. But I think if we look back behind the dais in City Hall, we're predominantly a residential community as well. So it's a real balance, how we deal with that and how these folks deal with that. So what we'd like to do is have each one of them take a couple of minutes, tell us about their organization, how it fits with the other two organizations that are up here, and just exactly what you all do. So Katie, I'm going to put you on the spot, and then we'll go to Amy and Rob from there. But before they start, please give them a round of applause for their time.
So for those of you that I haven't had the opportunity to meet yet, my name's Katie Ania, and I'm the Executive Director of the Carmel Chamber. But I'm also a resident. I live up on 2nd, and I'm a Carmel High mom, and I married a Carmel alum. So I am ingrained in the community. About a year ago, I joined the Chamber full-time as the Executive Director. And so over the last year, I've really spent a lot of time listening and trying to figure out what the Chamber's role is, not only with tourism, but in the community. And I'm so honored to be a part of the process. Our community, as you all know, is incredible. And so the Chamber's job is really, for us to support the businesses that are here in the village and beyond. Our membership does serve outside of Carmel-by-the-Sea, but we do so much work here in the village, focusing on supporting the businesses, focusing on tourism, but also prioritizing our residents and community and creating support. So the Chamber has lots of different facets. We have lots of programs and events that we host throughout the year. We try not to be too intrusive because, like I said, I live on 2nd, so I know what it's like to walk to work during car week. But we also want to build community, and we want our businesses to feel support, because when our community is thriving, I think we're all thriving. So as we continue to develop, like I said, I've been trying to listen and hear where the needs are. And so over the past year, the Chamber has become really even more involved in community organizations and partnering with the high school and prioritizing maybe groups that haven't felt that they have a voice. So we've developed a women's business council, different types of elements that are creating opportunities for our businesses to collaborate, to grow, to find success, and fit into the culture of our village. And then the way that we all kind of work together, I don't want to take everybody's words, but the way that I think we all kind of work together is that the marketing that these two do drives people to our village. And when they get here, we're here to service them. So something you may not know is that the Visitor Center that's in the Carmel Plaza is operated by the Chamber. We have 32 volunteers, some of you are probably in this room, who serve 362 days a year. And that is supported in part by Visit Carmel. So there really is a collaboration. Since I've come on, Amy and I have really worked hard to try and find our lanes, find our roles, and really complement each other as we kind of make our way through this journey. So that's what I have to share about the Chamber, and I'll pass it to you.
Thank you, Kate. Hi, everyone. My name is Amy Herzog. I'm the Executive Director for Visit Carmel, and I've been in that position for about 8.5 years now. Visit Carmel was formed about 10 years ago, and it was formed in response to a total transformation in the way that destinations were marketing themselves. There was a big sea change in the way that business improvement districts and hospitality improvement districts and other forms of improvement districts could be funded, and that started catching on all over the state of California. And in order to compete with that transformation, the hotels in Carmel-by-the-Sea came together and said, we are going to start to lose market share desperately if we don't do something about this. So they came together and created their own, what's called an HID, a Hospitality Improvement District. In conjunction with that, they needed an organization to be the administrator of those funds, and that's where Visit Carmel came in. This is about 10 years ago. Visit Carmel was formed as a 501c6 nonprofit organization, and we are the official administrators of the HID, and now later formed a Restaurant Improvement District, the RID. And then after that, also the city has a marketing fund. So we are the administrators of those 3 marketing funds, working in an efficient and effective way so that we are marketing this destination with one voice, one message, one brand. There's a real efficiency in portraying a destination in a singular way. So I would say our mission is very narrow, it's very focused. It is mostly focused on driving overnight visits to Carmel-by-the-Sea, especially during the times where the business is needed most, and also focused on increasing stays, and also focused on now supporting our restaurants. And then as a side note, we're very attuned to what makes Carmel special and unique. So the locally owned art galleries, architectural, performing arts, cultural events, those kind of sectors that wouldn't necessarily be able to market themselves. We also, using especially the funds from the city, we round out our destination marketing by helping those events as well. We've got Carmel Art Festival happening right now, and we've done, through our funds, a bunch of marketing in support of that. So just for example, that's, we'll get into a little more later, but as a side note, I originally am from Chicago, and after a year-long search about almost 30 years ago, searching this whole country for the best place to live, I chose the Monterey Peninsula. So, and I haven't left since, and I don't plan to. So, anyway, I do understand the value of what this destination brings. I'll turn it over to Rob.
Thank you, Amy. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate the opportunity to be here. My name is Rob O'Keefe. I'm the president and CEO of Sea Monterey. Some of you might have remembered us as MCCVB and confused us with MCVGA and all those other acronyms out there. And not so long ago, we changed the name to just Sea Monterey. And well, personally, I have been part of the organization since 2013. I was the chief marketing officer until about 2020. Then I drew the short straw, and someone had to fill in on the CEO seat when COVID hit, so here I am. Very passionate about what I do. I used to do destination marketing in Las Vegas. I tell people this and I think I'm joking, but Carmel, Monterey, the area is sort of my rehab from Vegas. My hands don't shake as much anymore. Until recently, I used to live just up the road in Santa Rita. And I've been in the village so much. And one of my children, I have 3, one of them just moved here and she loves it here. Carmel Bakery, Pepe, no kidding, that's the place that she always has to go. And so I, like all of you and like all of us who live in the village, have a very vested interest in the success of the village. And I'm quite passionate about that. We work with the entire county, so I work with 9 different cities plus the county. So at any given time or any given day, any given week, where me or my team are working with somewhere 54 to 56 elected officials, and love it. Love it here. But it's important because we have a very firm belief, and I think COVID put this on display. Tourism is an investment, yes, but unity is currency. And working together, collaborating together within the village and with all the other destinations that we work with within the county, that's how we succeed. Success is going to require that in the future because there's a lot of changes happening. We're facing challenges now, we can see challenges down the road. And our goal is to continue to focus on working together and being in places like this to have these types of conversations and sitting here with my counterparts is like, how can we constantly, every day, how can we do what we do in a better way? It's almost interesting the way we lined this up, Graham, because what we do, I get this question a lot. See Monterey focuses on tourism like this. Visit Carmel, as Amy said, more focused, and then we bring visitors here where you take them and spread them out, spread the benefits, spread the love, and make that available to all. And that's the synergy that sort of brings us here, I think, today in helping you all understand how that works. We have an international marketing program. We have sales teams, meetings and conferences. Aren't the biggest part of the business for the village, but they're important because when people come here for meetings and conferences, they tend to stay longer, do more, and spend more. And one of our goals is not more people. That's not important as more nights. If we can get people who are coming here and staying longer, less turnover if you're a hotelier, they like that. And it's just better for us. And when we're bringing people who fly in, and I think we'll talk about this, we work with the airport, they tend to come here and not bring their car, which I think we all like. So the last thing I'll say is just for us, again, philosophically, the most important part of the tourism economy is not the tourist. They are important, but it's the resident and it's the communities that we work in, because that's what we're here to do, is economic development and contribute to quality of life.
Well, let's give them a round of applause for that introduction. So I think that accomplishes, the high level piece of our discussion tonight. But then when we bring it back down to the village and probably some of the questions that you all have in the audience here, and I'm going to divert just for a second. Nancy has paper and pencil. If there's any questions that you all have, she'll bring them up here, and we might get to them. We might not. These folks will be around after the meeting, and you can answer any questions, have any questions for them at that particular time. So you look at it on a global basis, and Rob, that's what you do in the county. And then Amy, you have the Visit Carmel, you're the marketing piece, and you're the hospitality piece here. And this might not be a popular thing to say, but as an outsider, maybe it's a little inefficient. Is there a better way that we could do this to have the experience for the visitor be a better experience? And Rob, I know you and I talked about traffic and the trolley idea that you had, and we can talk about that as well. But the point is there a better way to do this? I don't know the answer to that question. And I think you guys have already started collaborating with Visit Carmel, having an office in the chamber office. Is that right?
No.
Oh.
No, that is a goal.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm ahead of myself.
But, I would like to elaborate on some of what you just said.
Sure.
I would actually make the case that what we're doing is incredibly efficient because, speaking just on behalf of Visit Carmel, and I was alluding to this, the way that destinations market themselves has transformed for two reasons. One, I explained about the funding. The other is technology. I'm sure you all know what it feels like to be targeted with a digital ad at this point. And it is incredibly specialized, the way we market a destination now. It's sophisticated, it takes some real expertise, it takes a team of people who understand it or who know who to hire to do it right. And it's very sophisticated. So trying to like shoehorn that into another organization that's already focused on other things would actually, I would claim, would be pretty inefficient. Where I do think we've completely increased our efficiency is what Katie was talking about. You know, last year we started a financial and strategic partnership with the Chamber. The Chamber has been doing a great job of running the visitor center. Visit Carmel is very much in support of coming in as a partner with that, because we recognize, you know, we take what we do very seriously. And if you come to any of our meetings, I really think that you would see that. And we know that there are times where it can feel like there's too many people here, or you know, it can feel a certain way. You know, Carrie Tice is our current chair of Visit Carmel. She's a lifelong resident as well. She's also been a former city council member for 10 years. So the people on our board, it's not like they're, you know, just business owners. They understand the holistic picture of everything. So coming in with the visitor center was our way of doing what we could to mitigate some of the impacts during times where we can't really control it. You know, with Car Week, for the most extreme example, we can't really control that people are coming here. That's not a thing that Visit Carmel is like trying to do, get more people here. What we do in that case is we work with the Chamber and we work on mitigation and we support what they're doing. We create communication pieces so that the hotels and the businesses know what's going on in town so they can convey that to the visitors, so we can keep a little bit better control over things. That's a time when we shift from marketing to communications so that we're being more effective. And then, I mean, if we're just gonna talk about Car Week, what Monterey has done over the last couple of years is really incredible. I don't know if you've seen what they do, but they hold whole media, I'll let you speak to it, but it's an example of this funnel that Rob's talking about, like, you know, big picture, middle, you know, micro, of all collaborating and being in touch with each other and doing something effective. And before I forget, I also want to mention, Katie is on Visit Carmel's board, I'm on Monterey's board, and Tim Toomey is on our board as well. So that's been fairly new, and it's another example of how we are trying to increase our collaboration, increase communication, really be in touch with what needs are of the whole community. Do you want to talk a little
Sure.
bit? Yeah.
No, I'll just add to that a little bit. I think we have these interlocking synergies between the three organizations. And as Amy said, there's board representation. In fact, I think there might be a marketing committee chair job coming up soon. What we do is incredibly synergistic. It has to be, and we gain, I think, a ton of efficiencies out of that. Not just with, like, Amy being on board, but when we want to go and say, you know, who in this room has flown that flight to Dallas? Anybody? A few people? So that flight was the product of a lot of community partnerships coming together to establish it and then to promote it, to build it. So when it comes to air service, that's something that it takes us working very closely together to make that happen. And there's a variety of other things we do when it comes to culinary, when it comes to culture. Car Week was a good example that Amy brought up. So I've heard from a lot of residents that we're like one of the best resources, because not only do we put on there where the events are, what time they're taking place, and descriptions, we also put down when roads are closed and when you shouldn't, you know, when you might want to avoid something. And as I've said for years, it used to take me about 6 minutes to get from where I lived on Santa Rita down to Safeway, and Car Week it takes me 12. But it's a $100 million event for the destination, of other people's money coming here and spending, and that's really important for us. But I just want to emphasize, it's important that people treat our destination the way we want them to treat it. And one of the things that we do together, the program that here at Love Carmel Like a Local, I was actually on the committee with Amy on that, but then we're spreading that outwards. We want to educate people before they get here. So if you've been in the Bay Area in the last couple of years during the summer, and this will be going up in the next few weeks, we have billboards. They have like otters on them, and it says adore responsibly. And we have other means to tell people before they get here that we expect them to be responsible and respectful, and then we remind them by virtue of Love Carmel Like a Local. We put ads on MST buses, and we do a whole bunch of other things to remind people when they're here, treat this destination like it deserves to be treated. And nobody likes to run an ad about traffic penalties more than I do, particularly in Big Sur. If you do illegal roadside camping or you're mistreating Bixby Bridge as happens, we promote don't do that or you're gonna get a fine. And they get fines. But it's important for us to tell people, what are our standards? What are our standards for how we enjoy where we live, and get them to share those.
So all the work that you guys do, I mean, you obviously don't do it for free. And so we'll pivot into the budget discussion in terms of how you all are funded. And I think those are important numbers for everyone to understand here. Because as residents, either we pay for some of the activities that you do or we don't. So if Katie, you could touch on that, Amy and Rob, and I think it's probably in that order in terms of the magnitude of the budgets, because Rob, you obviously have a bigger budget coming from the county and so forth. So Katie, we'll start with you,
Sure.
and then pivot to Amy, and then go to Rob. Go ahead.
Perfect. So we work with the city, and we currently are requesting to maintain a $60,000 budget from the city, and that goes in support of our visitor center. As I mentioned previously, we have 32 volunteers who operate that almost all year long, and we are a membership funded organization, but if you added up all of our membership dollars, it wouldn't meet the criteria of what we need to be able to operate and provide services to our businesses. So we've just been looking for ways to continue to collaborate and expand on, like I said, the programs and the offerings that we have. So we partner with the city and we find ways that we can be supportive of, like I said, businesses and members and beyond that. And so we use that, like I said, for the visitor center and all of the programming that we provide throughout the year. And we're thankful for it. It gives us an opportunity to work through our network and really provide top service to not only our businesses, but every person that walks through that door of the visitor center or our office.
80% of Visit Carmel's funding comes from hotels self-assessing overnight stays. It's a very self-sustaining funding model. If we do our job in increasing overnight stays, they stay overnight, this hotel's self-assess, and that comes back to us by way of the city. It is by far the most direct benefit we can provide to the city in terms of revenue, because as you probably are aware, in addition to the hotel's self-assessing for marketing, they also charge a 10% what's called TOT, transient occupancy tax. That provides about, probably will be up to about $9.2 million to the city directly this year. So, and in fact, I know you know, the city talks a lot about the three-legged stool, the TOT being one of them, property tax the other, and the third being sales tax. So that sales tax element also is directly impacted by visitation. So we feel that when we are doing our job responsibly but efficiently, bringing people in to stay overnight, that provides a direct benefit back to the community in a way in the terms of the city's revenue. We also 6 years ago started a restaurant improvement district, and I do want to give a big shout out to Rich Pepe and Ken Spilfogle, who are both here. Rich Pepe is also on our board. Ken Spilfogle is the chair of our restaurant marketing committee. And they were integrally involved in recognizing that the restaurants had different needs than the hotels. Yes, visitation helped support them, but you know, we all dine there too, and we're all so lucky to have the vitality, especially in the culinary scene that we have in Carmel-by-the-Sea. And I don't know if you've noticed, but the past 3 or 4 years, it feels like there's been almost a culinary renaissance in town. We've got another Michelin star restaurant. We've got other award-winning restaurants. We've got young couples coming in with families who are starting restaurants that are really creative and new. And you know, it's definitely a community benefit. And the restaurants deciding to create a restaurant improvement district and create their own marketing fund is the other funding source that we use. And you know that you hopefully have seen, we've got Carmel Culinary Week coming up May 30th through June 7th. It's our 5th annual year. It was started because if we wanted to present ourselves as a culinary community, we started thinking, well, then we should have a restaurant week form of an event. If we really were gonna be taken seriously and be able to drive travel, food is one of the #1 drivers for travel. So it makes a lot of sense to promote the culinary scene that we have here. And I did wanna mention, if you didn't see in the newsletter, well, we are really expanding Culinary Week this year, and it's going to be really amazing and fun. And we've got events out on Dolores Street, La Dolce Vita, an Italian night. We've got a Boho Bites and Beats, a nod to our Bohemian heritage on North Dolores Street. We've got an event at the Plaza, in the park, and at La Playa, and those are all ticketed events. And for all the CRA members, we're offering a 15% discount on any of those tickets. You just simply put in the code CRA when you're buying it. So since we're talking about it, and I wanted to remember to throw it out there. So CRA, and please come join us at any of those events, because it's really, we're taking a big swing this year, a big expansion. But we really wanted to find a way to really celebrate this, and take it to the streets a little more and celebrate the village. And thanks in huge part to cooperation from the city, because we couldn't do it without Chip and his whole staff, who are incredible about working with us. And the city is an amazing partner, and it's another example of why we still value our partnership with the city, which, by the way, is the third part of our budget, that contribution from the city. It's $120,000 to be fully transparent. A very small portion of the city's overall budget being reinvested into supporting the main economic driver for this village.
Thank you. Well, just picking up on the culinary piece, so it's a great example where Carmel is the culinary heartbeat of the county. And what's happening here is a renaissance. I truly believe that. And what we do to put more of limelight on what's taking place here, like Carmel Culinary Week, is we're going next week, we're going to New York, and we're doing a program with the James Beard Foundation. We're bringing 5 chefs from the destination, including Justin Cogley and Johnny Black. We're bringing them to New York, and we're gonna do a consumer event and a PR event to put more limelight on what's happening here. So that's another good example of how we work together and how that layering works. So the way that we're funded, it's a public-private. It's a great example of public-private. And one of the things that makes it great is our job is to bring people in for overnight visitation. Because if we do our jobs and people stay the night, they're gonna buy tickets, they're gonna make reservations, they're gonna make tea times, they're gonna do all those things. So we really focus on getting people here from outside the county. One of the great things about how we're both, to a degree, funded is by using other people's money to attract more of other people's money, and in partnership with the other people's money, use those dollars, those TOT and the sales tax, to pay for our quality of life, roads, streets, sidewalks, and all the other things that make our community very, very special. Our budget's 65% based on an assessment similar to what Amy talked about, and then we have that 65%, that assessment recently went up, so that allows us to reach further out markets. And then we work with, I said, 10 different jurisdictions. So the 2 largest jurisdictions, in terms of tourism product rooms, are the County of Monterey and the City of Monterey. And both of those each invest back 6% roughly of their overall, what they get in TOT. Not counting the sales tax, it's just the TOT. Carmel-by-the-Sea, Seaside, Pacific Grove, Salinas, all the others, it's 3% is what we ask. And that does some really important things. It keeps, among other things, it keeps Carmel at the table in a way that helps in a meaningful way run the business and follow the investment. It's not just here's a check, it's we want to work with you on a number of different ways. And another thing it does, for example, is every business in a jurisdiction that's one of our partners gets free membership. We used to charge $500 per year. Used to drive the chamber people crazy, because then it was like a competition. Like, I got so much money, can I join the chamber, or is it gonna be, it was MCCDB at the time, which was hard to pronounce. That made the sale even worse. But it's associated with the jurisdictions that we work with. And there are several dozen businesses here and that are part of C Monterey, and that's a growing list because we're actively out. We do door knocking campaigns to grow that. And so, yeah, that's where the dollars come from, and it's in both instances, TOT and the business assessment, That's at the bottom of your hotel bill, so when people come here, other people's money, they're paying both of those things, and it just gets looped back into investment in our community.
So I think that's a great overview, but I think the devil lies in the details and the specificity, you know, behind it. So Katie, you have $60,000 that you get from the city. Amy, there's $120,000 that comes from the city back to you guys. And Rob, your number coming from the city is roughly.
We're looking at 3%, this current year is about 226,000.
Okay, and is that coming out of the city budget, or are the actual visitors actually paying for that?
That's coming from, that's a portion of the TOT, which visitors pay,
Okay.
that goes to the city. So the total take for the city, 3% of that.
Okay, okay. So it's a lot of money that's coming in, and, you know, you guys do a great job with all the different events that you're putting on. That does impact us as residents, though, and, you know, we've got parking issues in town, you know, we've got traffic issues with these big events and that type of thing, and I know I mentioned it earlier, and Robbie talked about it the other day, you know, there's a trolley idea that you have. I think there's some activities that the city's working on in terms of parking and so forth. I personally don't think we have a parking problem. We've got an enforcement problem, a perception problem, but that being said, you know, I think there's a way that you're addressing all the different parking problems that we have here in town. So do you want to talk about the
Sure.
trolley a little bit?
Yeah. Okay, so maybe this is the windmill that I'm charging, but I'm gonna keep charging it. And it's not my idea, I think it's a shared idea, but we've got to work harder on traffic mitigation. And there's a lot of things taking place in a lot of ways. We look at what we can do. Our superpower is destination marketing. How can we affect that? We're not an advocacy organization, that's MCHA. We are an education organization. We do a lot of research. Everything we do is research-based. And there are better ways to go about what we're doing. And we've got to look to the future. We've taken a hard look. We published a strategic plan that looks out to the end of the decade. There's gonna be another 1,000 rooms in Monterey County by 2030. Kimpton going into PG, and you got some other things taking place. We've got, and this is where the collaboration comes in, where it's not just any one city, the cities all work together. And that's already happening, which is great. But for us, just one idea. If it's possible, could we get the trolley that goes through Monterey to make a stop in PG and make a stop at Carmel Plaza and do a loop? It doesn't sound that complicated to me. I think it was tried once long ago. I actually met with MST recently, and Carl Sidoric told me. But we talked about other ways to do it, and we had a very, very good conversation, I'm happy to say, about there may be some ways to do that. And that way, people, when they come here, part of our research, whether they are driving here or they're flying here, if they're driving there, just want to park their car. They don't want to move it around, worry about parking. They want their own, they want a means to get around. And people like trolleys a lot more than they like buses. And we've got something that's good and is working. Let's spread that out. So one of the ideas, and we're continuing to work on that, is if we could get that cycle going, and there are other things too. I mean, MST doesn't go to Big Sur anymore, and there's reasons for that. But we need, I think, more and better traffic solutions that are resident first, but tourism second, and the two are interlinked, including for the people who work in hospitality. I think we need more and better solutions for that, and as catalysts in this village and beyond, I think we have a real opportunity.
Comments?
Well, we agree with everything Rob said, and I know Katie, do you want to talk first, because I know you're involved in transportation too, or I was going to get back into the budget question you had. Where do
Okay,
you want me to
Katie,
go?
and then we'll go back to Amy.
Okay.
So since my arrival, that's been a hot topic. So we've been working tirelessly to try and figure out how we can be supportive. So yes, trolleys would be so fantastic, and leading even beyond having the trolley that goes Monterey to PG to Carmel. We've talked about, is there an option that we can do some type of off-site parking that allows for employee trolley transportation, and maybe that's a benefit that the chamber can provide. Maybe there's partnerships that we can create. So it's definitely a hot topic. Gail is actually the chair of our committee for that. So it's definitely on the top of our brains. We're trying to figure out if there are other solutions too. It might not just be a one fit option. Maybe it is the trolley that goes throughout the peninsula, and it is the trolley that takes employees, to off-site parking. And maybe there's opportunity as the, other facilities like Carmel High School, as they expand their parking facilities. Maybe during the summer, there's an opportunity for us to create partnerships. So it's definitely on the boilerplate for us, and I know that it's something that's important to the city too, and so we'll just continue to collaborate.
Back to the budgeting.
Yeah, that's a budget question. You had the devil's in the details, and so I was just kind of thinking a little bit about the 120,000, Visit Carmel, and there's just a couple nuances, not to bore you all and get too detailed, but first of all, that $120,000 ask has, with the exception of during COVID, when it went down slightly, that number hasn't changed in the 8 years that I've been working in this. So while everything's gotten much more expensive in terms of how we market, we have not changed how much money we have. I wouldn't even call it asked. We consider this a partnership and investment from the city. Historically, before Visit Carmel existed, the city spent a lot more money on marketing. The city has marketing needs. We are thrilled, as I mentioned earlier, to be able to partner with the city so that we can kind of integrate all of what we're doing. Again, it's more efficient, effective, coming out with one message, one voice, one look and feel. We remove that responsibility or that task from the city so they can focus on city matters. City's not a marketing agency, and so if we weren't around, they would probably have to find a separate agency to take care of that, and it would cost a lot more than $120,000 to do that. In addition, the city also collects a commission on the assessments that I mentioned, so they make a little more than $20,000 on that. So after you net that out, you're at under 100. Visit Carmel provides 30 in partnership with the chamber to help with the visitor center, which I think we all agree is a really wonderful service. Helps mitigate impact from tourism. So by the time you get down, it's not a huge not financial ask, but it's incredibly important because we're funded by hotels and restaurants, but we have all these other businesses in town, locally owned art galleries, boutiques, shopping, the wine tasting rooms. And it's those city funds that support us rounding out our marketing so that we can market all of those visitor serving businesses. And many of those are your residents who not only own those businesses, but who work there. So we really feel COVID was a big wake up call. I always loved this job, but it took on a totally new meaning when all of a sudden it looked like things were shutting down and people, lifelong residents, generations of people on our Zooms were close to tears because they thought they were gonna lose it all. And they thought they would have to fire someone who worked there for decades. And it just made me understand on a deeper level what we do is important. It's people's lifelong dreams, it's their legacies, and they're employing the community. And anyway, I just feel really strongly about it.
Yeah. Add to that thought, I absolutely agree. Obviously, we used to say, tourism, and you hear this a lot in other businesses. Well, it's not brain surgery, right? We're not fixing cancer. You know what? It is very, very important because it is, and COVID put this on display for everyone. It's people's livelihood. It's their life. We have almost 28,000 people who work in hospitality. And it's a $3.1 billion industry for the county. It impacts so many different people. And even if you don't work in hospitality, I asked my dentist once. I said, how many people do you know that your clients work in hospitality? He didn't give me an answer. He's like, I gotta look into that. That's a really good question. The next time I came in, he said 60%. 60% of my clients are in the hospitality business. And who's buying the cars? And insurance agents. So if you take that ripple effect, it's an absolutely critical part of our county, and it's absolutely critical part of our lives, in particular people who work in the industry and the businesses. And I think you're very eloquent in how you said that, because I couldn't have said it better, and I agree.
So we're getting down to the end of the discussion, and the last question or the last topic, and then we'll break for wine and food and some other conversation and other questions you might have for these folks. We've talked about budgets, we've talked about the money. We have a fairly good understanding what the chamber and how you guys spend your money here locally. But with all the funds coming in, when I was a kid, you'd see ads in Sunset magazine, you'd see ads in the AAA magazine, you know, maybe the Chronicle and you know, maybe the San Jose Mercury News, the Sacramento Bee. But now in this day and age, you've got the internet and everything else. So all those funds that you guys have, can you give us an idea of where you spend kind of on a percentage basis and what the success rate of that is?
Why don't you start with that?
Okay.
and then I'll do that.
So, at least 80% of our budget goes into directly paid media. Probably about that into paid media, and that's the digital marketing that you see on your phones. It's also what we would call TV, but it's not really TV. It's, you know, we're all streaming now. Maybe not all of us, but a lot of us are streaming. But if you're on Hulu or HBO or Max or whatever, you know, unless you're paying the extra fees, you're getting ads.
Yeah.
So,
Who hates that?
Right. So, you know, we do also spend money at KSBW and at NBC up in the Bay Area. I mean, we will buy traditional TV, but the vast majority is going into digital advertising and that streaming TV advertising. We also pay for a PR and social media agency. So that's what we call earned media, where, I don't know if you all saw the New York Times 36 Hours in Carmel story. That's like the top of the wish list of what any destination would want. It's New York Times, amazing audience, really well written, absolutely looks beautiful. You know, that's generally generated by a PR agency. And then if you're on social media, if you're following Visit Carmel or the Chamber, who also has a really active channel, and so does C Monterey, you know, that takes a lot of expertise and actual people power to put that together. We have a local content creator, actually two, another woman who comes down once a month and focuses just on our restaurants. It's a lot, but people now are digesting media in a completely different way, and they're making travel decisions in lots of different kinds of ways. And it's, there's kind of a traveler's journey that we talk about, and you know, for people to make a travel decision, and by the way, it's usually a woman who makes that decision, they need to see it several times in several different ways before they decide that they're going to actually travel. So what we do is very integrated, but it is a broad spectrum of various different marketing tactics. So I don't know if that answers your question. Our administrative costs are extremely low. It's probably about 13 to 15% overhead and admin, and then everything else is basically marketing.
I think those percentages are, what admin is similar with us as well. I'll just say, I think when you think about your own travel, think about what spurs you to want to go somewhere. Paid media is really important, but that social media and that PR, and by the way, we work very closely together on that to get those big hits and the small, is really important. So we spend about probably 70% of our budget on paid media, and we're buying media in a lot of different places across the country because we're trying to draw people in. We're Dallas, Denver, Seattle, our fly markets, and then beyond those, we're trying to get more people coming in from the Midwest and the East Coast. We need to get folks flying in from those destinations. We need to get folks, if you think about the next 5 years, folks coming to Carmel and Monterey that never even thought to come here before. We've got to get that attention, and we're looking to bring people here in the off season. We're trying to manage that travel to the degree we can. It's very important. By the way, on how we spend our dollars and a budget, you might ask yourself, I've been asked this more than once, how do we even need to market? Look at Carmel. It's gorgeous. But we compete against Napa, not too bad. Santa Barbara, we'll give them a little, not too bad. Sonoma and many other destinations, and in many instances, we're outgunned in terms of budget. They've got higher budgets than we do in terms of budget firepower. So the things that we're doing together are essential because those people in Napa, my counterpart in Sonoma, they're looking to get the same travel we're trying to get. They want to pull dollars out of our pockets as a community, and we love those guys. Co-opetition is tourism is one of those things where co-opetition is, and it's my favorite word for this industry because we were competing with each other, but we all work together. Even with, I call it Sinapa. It's just one big one. So, and then is it working? Yeah, we're watching everything we do is measured, and the success rate is increasing. We look at it sort of macro numbers, and these are some new numbers that just came out. I sent a note earlier to Chip. what the visitor spending for the village. We do an annual study every year. I won't get into all those details in enough time. But the visitor spending from calendar year 23 to 24 is up by 25%. That's really good. Employment's up, taxes are up. So it's all working. We look at what we do per campaign and how many people came to our website or engaged on social. So all of that's measured and it's working at all levels. It's sort of the micro level and the macro level.
Wait, I just want to say, sorry, I just want to play that, so then the marketing materials that they produce then come to the visitor center where our volunteers, you know, provide all of that to the people that come through. So you provide maps for us and lots of different types of information so that when the visitor does come in looking for that, we're able to provide that for them.
Well, we really appreciate you guys all being here this evening. I think one of the important things is the relationship and the collaboration and the collegial way that we can go about our, you know, maybe conflicting goals, if you will. I mean, we hear about all the people coming to town and as residents, it's like, gosh, that's a lot of people here. We want to be good hosts, but we also want to maintain the character of the village, and we've all talked about that in different ways. So I think to have us at the table, Tim Toomey on Visit Carmel, Zagale with the Chamber, Rob, I know through C Monterey with Janine now stepping in as board chair. I think that's great. So if it's acceptable with you guys, we'd like to have you back for future discussions. And I don't, Rob, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think we've done this before in terms of, you know, all four of us getting together.
No, this is the first. I did come to a CRA meeting years and years ago, and Barbara was at the helm. That was a tricky meeting.
Don't elaborate on that.
Yeah. But thank you, Graham. This is great.
Yeah.
So anyway, let's give him a round of applause for being here. Thank you for So with no further ado, let's transition into wine, water, hors d'oeuvres, or whatever your pleasures. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your membership, and we'll look forward to seeing you around town. Thanks.